Hello and welcome to Gabbett Media. I'm Grant Abbott, and today we're making a Grumpy Toadstool. This is from a beginner's perspective, so I won't be going through the basic interface, and I'm assuming some knowledge from the brushes from my previous videos on the playlist. So make sure you've checked out the playlists in the description for the complete beginner's guide to Blender. You can also go to my website, gabbett.co.uk, which has all my free courses in order. If you like sculpting, then check out my sculpting playlist, and it has more follow-along type tutorials like this. Also, if you like what I do, then you can check out my new character course. It takes you right from nothing through to making a great game character. Okay, so we'll start with the default cube, and we can subdivide that 3 times. We can just press Ctrl 3, and that adds a subdivision surface modifier with 3 levels. I'm going to duplicate this with Shift D and then Z, so we've got the top of our mushroom and the bottom. Doesn't look very mushroom shaped at the moment, but we can easily change this. So we'll start with the top. I'll go into edit mode and face mode with 3, select that top face and scale it in. G then Z, bring it down, and the bottom face I'll bring out, so scale that out. Control R for a loop cut, left click and I can set this loop cut, and you can see the difference it's making to my subdivision surface modifier. These are called supporting loops and they sharpen edges, as you can see there. So if I bring this one down to here, you can see the difference it makes. I'll go back to face mode with 3, or face mode up here, select that top face, and E to extrude, so we've got a bit of a top there, and scale that in. So that's a good starting point for our toadstool mushroom person. Now to the bottom, so tab, back out of edit mode, select our next object, into edit mode, and I'm going to scale this in, but not in the Z, so scale, then Shift Z, so it doesn't change the height, about there, and Control R once again to create these supporting loops, one there, Control R, left click, and one there, and left click to set. And that's a nice easy blocked out starting point for our mushroom, toadstool, whatever it is. Okay, we're almost ready for sculpting, but we do actually have to apply these modifiers in order to sculpt on them. If I go to sculpt mode now and start trying to change things, it's just changing these vertices here, so we can't do that. So back into layout mode and into object mode, across to our modifiers, and in 2.9 you actually apply them underneath here, and we can click apply. Same for this one, apply. Now we're ready to go in sculpt mode, so I can click on sculpting, but remember my first one is in sculpt mode, but if I try and click on the other one I can't. What I have to do is come up to edit and then lock object modes, turn that off. Now I can alt left click on the other one and alt left click back on this one. This one will stay in sculpt mode, but this one, because it hasn't been put into sculpt mode, we need to do that now. So object, cross to sculpt mode. Now I can alt left click between the two and it will change the object. You can see there cube 001 and cube as I go between the two. So we're ready for sculpting. So the important thing is to get the shape first. So I'll zoom out just a touch, make sure I'm on my top and start working on that. I think an X and Y mirror for now to get the bottom shape, and I'll resize my brush and we'll get the grab brush and just sort of change the shape of this slightly, bring the middle in. Very low resolution at the moment, but that's fine. F to resize your brush, hold down Shift to smooth out, and I'm going to bring this in as well around the sides here, so it sort of comes down and up. I've got some reference images on my other screen of toadstools and things, and sort of adding my own style to it. Shift to smooth out if you need to. Okay, I'm going to use the snake hook brush now, and I want to create that sort of spiral at the top. I'll turn symmetry off for this though, so both in the X and Y at the top there, and then I want to pull this out and make it sort of curved like this. The only problem is, as you can see, it's distorting the topology slightly and really stretching it, and usually I work with die and topo. If you've seen the previous episodes of this series, you'll see that I go to die and topo and I usually do that there. However, there are other ways. You can do this sort of thing and remesh every now and again, so I'll just go to the remesh option at the top here, voxel size, let's get the picker and see what size that is, back to the remesh, and we're at 0.14. So if I go to 0.06 for now, and remesh and see how that does, that looks about right. Let's edit this slightly more, so stretch it out, and give it a curl there, and just do a quick remesh. So you can sort of change it around. I like the fact that it's sort of going into here and rotating it on itself, and then just keep remeshing each time. And that's pretty much the same as die and topo, but you have to press the remesh in between. Okay, so I'm going to edit the shape slightly more. A bit of randomness now because I've got symmetry turned off, remember? And I think I'm fairly happy with the shape. Maybe I'll give it a bit of asymmetry, sort of up and down. real sort of style then. It looks like a cap then, doesn't it? So that'd be fun. I suppose we want it from this sort of angle. Which one? This one probably, so it goes backwards. So we'll bring this up. So there'll be a sort of face here. I like the snake hook because you can sort of twist it like this. So you can sort of click and drag and rotate. It's a nice feature there. And just make sure you're happy with the outline. It's good to get a sort of silhouette like this, or think about the silhouette anyway. So always thinking, does it actually work as a piece, the composition and sort of character elements. Okay, that looks good. Let's have a remesh where it's lower now. So let's go the voxel size of maybe 0.04 and press enter. This of course does depend on the size of your starting cube. If you scale it up or anything like that, then this voxel size is dependent on the sort of grid size. So do be aware of that. Yours might be very different to mine depending on the size of your actual cube. What I might try quickly is the inflate brush. And I'll just bring my brushes out actually so you can read the descriptions. You just pull and click and drag here. There's the inflate. Let's bring that down and just inflate the corners. Because I'm noticing different styles of toadstools here have sort of different edges, but I'm quite liking this sort of puffy style. It's good, quick remesh. So always just quickly remeshing, and sometimes you need to do a little bit of a tidy up after you've done that. Okay, so I've got the basic shape there, and I think the front's going to be around here somewhere. So I've got to think about the base now. So Alt left click on the base, and let's get the grab brush and think about the shape. Probably turn symmetry back on, X and Y, make my brush nice and big, and just be thinking about what sort of shape we're going to make this. So probably thin at the top like this, fat at the bottom. Oh yeah, I like the sort of fat rounded shape. It seems to be working well. I'm trying to remember that this is my front point here. It might be somewhere around there maybe. It's a really sort of fat toadstool mushroom thing. It is a toadstool really, but most people say mushrooms. Remesh, and then I'm on 0.1 at the moment. Let's just double check what this is. So I'll use my picker, so it's 0.2. If I go to 0.07, that's probably going to be about right. About there, it's looking good. Yeah, a bit of smoothing out. And that's a nice rough shape. Now if you just want to make a toadstool, you can just add a bit of detail to this and you're happy. But I want to make a toadstool with a face on it. It's good practice. For later on in the series, we'll be looking at faces and how we can build those. So we'll just do something very basic at the moment for a bit of fun. So I'll come around to the front here. In fact, I say it's the front, but it's actually the side view here. If we look at our Cartesian coordinates, the Y is going across the axis there. If you ever need your axes in here, you can go up to the overlays and you can click X and Y so you know where you are and your orientation. In fact, I probably ought to leave that on so it makes it easier for people to understand where I'm at. So I did say I was going to make this the front, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm just in the X axis, so I have to mirror in the Y now. And then I can grab out with a sort of nose, quite a big fat nose. And just pulling and grabbing it outwards. Could use the snake hook tool here, it's a bit more powerful, so it grabs a bit further. Am I going to have a sort of fat nose or a thin nose? It's up to you really what you want to do. And just have a bit of fun creating sort of interesting stylized noses. Just the basic shape, no nostrils as yet, sort of, you've got the basic outline of nostrils but no sort of actual crevices for the nostrils just yet. So that looks quite fun. I feel like he needs a bit of a lean on him. Often I press G by accident and go to the grab brush rather than F for the brush size. So if ever you see my brush suddenly change to the grab brush, that'd be why. Okay, I quite like the look of that. It's got some sort of humour to him. Remember to hold down Shift to smooth out and to remesh every now and again. I'll go a little bit lower this time, so 0.05 and remesh, so I've got more mesh to play with. So hopefully I'm showing you different techniques that you can use for creating shapes. I have heard talk that they are getting rid of the dime topper at some point soon, so this will become the normal drawing method. I'm going to go to my draw brush now, bring my brush size right down with F, and then create some eyebrows, so eye sockets just in there. Control to dig into your mesh with the draw brush, smooth out with Shift, and now I'm going to create the nostrils. Let's see how we do with those. It's looking pretty funny. Maybe the nose is too big now, but we can adjust that. Let's go to the grab brush and bring those in a bit, I think. It's okay in terms of width, but just along here where the cheeks are going to join looked a little bit odd. Round at the front can be quite fun. How's that looking? It's a bit better. It's not very rounded though, so a bit more here. I use the snake hook for this because it has that sort of rotation to it when you pull it out. That's a bit nicer. Here we go, we're getting a bit of a nose now. Okay, always circling around. So you want to see what this looks like from different angles. At the moment it's not got very good balance. He's sort of leaning this way slightly, which I don't mind, but it just looks like this wouldn't balance on top of him. So we have to be aware of those sort of things as well. So let's just move these slightly into position. I don't want to lose his shape too much, and I might have to just move the top hat. I think I might do that, because I quite like the backwards sort of lean. Some of my reference images have some sort of characters like that, and they do seem to work quite nicely. So I'll bring this back a bit, and I'll bring the top hat back. So if I alt left click on it and then just go to object mode, I can press G then X, move it back slightly, and then just think about, am I going to rotate it? Maybe around like this, so it looks like a hat, and just making sure it lines up. R then Z just for a little bit of variation. So I'm rotating around the Z axis when I'm doing that. Okay, we're sort of getting there. I'm going to do a really basic mouth. So alt left click on our base. I'm just going to change the shape, make sure that's working and has some balance. So we're in side view here. Just circle around. I think we're working. I'm just going to click on the top actually and just sculpt a little bit more of that. I just want to bring this down a little bit so it's sort of got a bit more shape to it and interest. I might go back to that later. Okay, alt left click on this one. Notice now I'm not in object mode. It goes back to sculpt mode each time I alt left click on these different objects. Okay, I'm going to need a bit more of a remesh, so let's bring this down. 0.3, and actually press the remesh this time. And we can see the detail that that's adding. Okay, with the draw brush, I'll create a bottom lip. Still got symmetry on. It's going to be sort of grumpy like this. Now that's why I go around to the side to see how far I've come out, because you can't really tell from the front. You're sort of sculpting away, you come around to the side and it's really pointy. So we don't want that. So I'll smooth that out a bit. And then with the crease brush now, let's get the crease brush in there and make him sort of very grumpy looking. Yes, look at him there. He's not happy about something. Probably where he's positioned himself, because they can't walk, you know, mushrooms. And maybe he's got a really bad view, he's pointing this way and there's a really great view behind him, but he can't turn even. Poor guy. Okay, back into the draw brush and let's create an actual eye socket. That's good, and I think we're ready to put some eyes in. So let's go back to layout mode for that. Same techniques as I've used before, so shift right click to move my 3D cursor into position, shift A to add, and let's add in mesh UV sphere. We can scale that down so it's the right sort of size. Come around to the side, which is actually the front, and G to grab and just sort of move that into position there, and to the front. Oh, I'm reverse front view, so Control 3. I did kind of mess up my angles a little bit there. And let's think about where this is going to go. Now really you should try, it doesn't make too much difference with stylized characters, but think about the distance here being the same as the distance here. So sort of a bit of symmetry to him. You can move the shape of the face around a lot, but if the eyes move, then the face can look quite distorted. I'll come over to my modifiers, add modifier mirror. Looks like it hasn't done anything, but if we use the mirror object, we choose our pipette and use the face, and actually choose the y-axis, not the x-axis, it mirrors across the other side. Probably a bit confusing that I'm working on the back side here, but hopefully that all makes sense now. I've put the axes in. Green being Y, X being the red. Okay, I can go back to this now in sculpt mode, so make sure, alt left click, I've actually chosen this object and then back into sculpt mode. Now we can start thinking about our shape a bit more, so the grab brush here, start getting this nose a bit more suitable, very wide now, and get these eyes a bit more correct. He's going to be grumpy, so he's going to have a bit of a meh to him, to give it its technical term. The eyes are too far back now, I'm noticing, so layout, select those, into side view or front view, G to grab, and let's move them forward. It's a bit strange, isn't it, my shape, but the nose is so far forward, I think I need to just bring the eyes very slightly forward. It wasn't that much actually. And then make sure you clicked on your face and then back into sculpt mode. If you don't do that, you'll start sculpting the eyeballs and you probably don't want that. Okay, so every now and again, if you've changed the shape a lot, then you might want to do a remesh. I'll just go a little bit lower now as well, so 0.02. Obviously the lower we go, the more taxing it will be for your computer. What I'm going to do, under overlays, we've got statistics, so you can see the face count there. So that's under overlays statistics, in case you missed that. And that's the face count of just the object that I've got selected here, isn't it? Let's bring this up a little bit. I'm not going to go too complicated, so I'm just going to give him sort of slight cheekbones like this, rather than any eyelids. So very simple with the eyes. Okay, that's kind of fun. Let's go to the crease brush now. I start adding detail with the crease brush, so make my brush reasonably small, and then we can start adding that detail around the nostril. Come up to here perhaps, then maybe down here if we want. Give it that sort of frown lines. They're smile lines really, but in this case they're frown lines. I'm going to smooth this bit out a little bit as well. Come underneath here a bit, and control, hold down control to give him sort of that upper lip there. Depends how much detail you want to give really. I'll just go back to the draw, control, and I'm going to give him a top lip. Just a little one. Maybe a touch more, just a tiny bit more. Okay, we can dig a bit more in here and smooth out a touch as well. Let's see how we're getting on. It's looking cool. Down at the bottom lip here, just be careful, always go around to the side as well. See what you're actually doing. There we go, it's sort of pouting a bit more, grumpy, upset, sort of old manish. Upset old man. Pointed chin or not? A little bit of a point, not too much, more of a sort of wide. There we go. He's looking fun now, isn't he? Okay, back to the crease, and let's work on the eyebrows a little bit. Give him a bit of a frown there, to a bit of a dent. Not too much around there. We can hold down control, bring those out a little bit. So control with the crease creates a sort of sharper line like this. I don't want to make him too sharp because he's a mushroom. They don't really have sharp bits. Okay, now that's looking alright, I would say. I think he needs a bit more shape at the back perhaps, but we'll figure out that in a moment. I'm going to work on the top now. Alt left click on the top. Probably do a bit more of a detailed remesh. So I can go down to 0.4 and it will be similar to the bottom one hopefully. Let's just smooth those out and see what's going on. Oh, that's more than I thought, so 0.03 then. Can't remember what I had it on the bottom one. Maybe it was 0.03 actually. Okay, I've still got Y symmetry on, so I'll turn that off for now. And I'm going to go to the crease brush and start sort of creasing in areas. Oh, I think I need more detail, so I'm going to go to 0.01. Oh, steady on there. I probably ought to just open this up and then remesh from here and have that always on. But I'll stick with this for now. But maybe I'll do that in a second. Okay, so making a few sort of dents here. And those sort of gills. I suppose we do want the gills coming out. Maybe I'll put the symmetry on for this. It's going to go a bit distorted, but as long as it's just roughly working. This is going to be under his head anyway, so it's not a big deal. Okay, it's not working now because I've gone all the way around, right? So we'll just do it manually. So we can have stylized gills. I probably should have done that a bit earlier before I did the symmetry stuff. Because that's going to take me ages. So it's just going to have the representation of gills under there. And a few of those sort of come up to the top like this. They create those sort of crease areas like this. So yeah, there we go. He's got that sort of mushroomy look, toadstooly look, whatever you call it. Okay, so let's get some detail in there. Well, with the draw tool, I think he's going to have a few of those sort of funny little bubble, what are they called, bits? Warts, basically. Toaster warts. That's what they are. Now, do resize your brush or zoom out a bit to create bigger ones and smaller ones. Maybe smaller as they go up. I'm going to smooth these ones out at the top a little bit because I'm just looking at my reference images and they go sort of flatter as they go up. Well, they don't really exist, I think. But there's a bit of creative license going on here, really. And I'm just going to smooth this end out a little bit. Yeah, he's looking pretty fun now, isn't he? Now, if you want to sort of really sharpen those up a bit, then you can go with the crease brush and just sort of go around them, give them a bit more sharpness. I'm not sure this is particularly necessary, but we'll just quickly do that. I say quickly. We'll just take ages doing that. Now, when you start adding the detail like this, you have to be a little bit careful about doing any sort of remesh after this point, because the remesh from here, you might actually start losing some detail. So it's alright if you go down in terms of the value of the remesh, and in fact I'll just show that point. So I'm smoothing out a bit here, and if I remesh now with 0.1, so the resolution the mesh is at already, remesh 0.1, press remesh. Now we don't lose too much detail, but if I press undo and redo, you can just sort of see in here, undo, let's zoom in a bit, and then redo. undo. So you can sort of see what's going on. But if I go down, let's say to 0.009 or 8, I don't want to go too far because I don't want to go over the top, but let's remesh now. And you can see it's fine, and it doesn't lose that detail because it's adding more resolution. So just be aware, don't remesh too much when you start adding your detail in. Just going to smooth some of this out. It becomes harder to smooth as well because obviously the smooth just smooths the distance between the vertices. So if you've got a much more detailed mesh, then obviously that's going to move much less. Okay, so we're looking pretty fun. I think maybe some dents as well. Just feel like some dents. Oh, not the crease brush, the draw brush here. Hold down Control and then sort of dig in. Make my brush really small. And maybe some underneath. Could put the strength up just to make it a bit quicker. So it looks like an old mushroom. Let's just check how that's doing. That's looking alright, I think. So just a few. I'm not going overboard because it sort of loses its cartooniness if you add too much detail into these things, I find anyway. Okay, I think we're getting there. So Alt left click on the bottom here and let's remesh a little bit further. So I'm going to go to 0.1 now, 0.01. And see what that looks like. Make my brush nice and big and just smooth out a little bit. I'm going to go a bit further actually, 0.008 and remesh that. So you can see my face is there. I'm not reaching a million yet, but when I smooth out, it does make quite a difference to the shape, especially around this lip area. If we look around there, that was quite blocky, so it's good to smarten that up a bit. I can actually put my symmetry back on now actually because we're still on the face which has symmetry. So just smooth out a little bit around there. Obviously when I shade smooth, that smooths it out by itself in a sense, doesn't it? Let's actually go to the crease brush, make that more creased. Yeah, that's all looking alright. I think maybe the draw brush, let's give it a little bit more form. Smooth that out a bit though, that's a bit too much. Oh yeah, I've got the strength up. Default is 0.5. Okay, so it's looking good. I think just a little bit of asymmetry to the face now, so let's turn the symmetry off. Let's get the grab brush. Actually, let's make the nose a bit more distorted. Old man style. There we go. I shouldn't say old man style because it's just rude. I'll be an old man. Some might say I'm an old man already. And I have had my nose bashed in quite a few times, so shouldn't be rude about that. Okay, so we've got some asymmetry there. Grumpy mushroom. Last feature, a witchy wart on the nose. Might want to just smarten some lines up with the crease. Sometimes they distort when you go out of symmetry. I think we're okay with this. Okay, the last thing to do I find is just to make sure your shape's looking good. So let's go back to the layout mode and just make sure things are in object mode. I can actually turn off lock object modes now, or turn back on lock object modes, and I can start thinking about this a little bit and maybe give him a little bit more shape and style. Let's just get to front view there. Just want to match up the middles a little bit. It's looking good. Okay, so we've got our toadstool, and in the next episode I'll talk about the texturing along with the lighting. Hopefully you've learned something new there about using the remesh modifier rather than Dyn Topo, and that will give you a little bit of practice working on faces. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.